G'day guys, how's it going? Welcome back to Sam Kitchen, where I bring to you budget-friendly recipes with sustainability in mind. So today's video, a little bit sentimental for me. It's going to be the last video that I make in this kitchen. That's right, I'm moving. I got about 2 weeks left. Whether or not that is going to impact the video schedule, I don't know just yet, but stay tuned, I'll keep you guys posted. So as part of the moving, obviously getting rid of my personal stuff, that also includes food I've been saving up in the fridge, in the freezer. So that means today's cheesecake, I'm really focusing into how to use up my stuff. So that includes, instead of using biscuits for the cheesecake base, I'm using the saved up Okara everyone's asking about. So that's going to be really cool to see how that works out. Using up the cream cheese that I put away in the freezer, using up the homemade peanut butter. Instead of buying a block of chocolate, just for the sake of video, I'm going to use up as much of the cocoa powder that I have. So it's a lot of improvising, using up blips and blobs, and I know that might not be super applicable to you, so I'll make sure with the ingredient list, I will have the normal equivalent ingredients for you so you can follow along. So that is about it from me, and let's get cooking. Alright, so these are the ingredients you can see on the screen. We've got the base, the cake body, and the topping over here. That's it. So we're starting with our base. Usually most recipes recommend using some kind of biscuits, whether it's Oreo or some other biscuits, but we've got these Okara that I need to clear out of my freezer. So this is a mixture of soy, oat, and almond. So we're going to dehydrate this first, and then after that blitz it up so make it crunchy and crusty. The nut pulps here are byproducts of plant-based milk production.
Have you ever looked at a tree and thought, can I drink this?
So first thing we're going to do is to dehydrate them. Onto a baking sheet, spread it out nice and even, and into a preheated oven at 150 degrees Celsius until crispy. Halfway through, I took the tray out and loosened the particles up with the fork to increase the surface area to speed things up.
One eternity later.
So it's been 2 hours. It took way longer than I expected to dehydrate this, but essentially I started with too low of a temperature, but after I cranked it up, you can see a good browning happen to this. It definitely gives a bit more of the biscuit texture. The pulps now should be a cookie crumb kind of texture. Into a food processor, the dehydrated Okara is a little short of 100 grams. So I'm topping it up with some leftover cereal, bowl on, lid on, and pulse until the crumbs turn into a same-like kind of consistency. To create the typical Oreo or chocolate flavor, I added 5 grams of cocoa powder, pulse it again until well mixed. Obviously, instead of using Okara or nut pulp, you can just use 100 grams of biscuit or Oreo instead. Next, we need to add in some fat. I have about 70 grams of kofa left in the fridge to use up. I then topped it up with 30 grams of canola oil to make it 100 grams of fat. You can just do 100 grams of butter instead. Call in Chef Mike to help us melt the fat.
Who cooked that, Dustin?
That's Chef Mike.
Chef who?
Until all melted. Once done, add in the melted fat into our biscuit / Okara crumb. Give it a good mix and it should appear as a wet sand kind of like texture. Grab a baking tray or cake tin, that is going to be the mold of our cheesecake. Line the bottom with baking paper so the cheesecake can be easily removed once baked. Push the baking paper into corners. If you're using parchment paper like me, it needs a layer of oil to make it non-stick. Baking paper is the one that is already coated. Now that it's done, we pour the cake base in. Give the bowl a good scrape so nothing goes to waste. Spread our crumb out nice and even. We want a good ½ centimeter thick to provide some good texture to the cake. So now the base is all done, there are 2 methods I've seen. People do pop these in the oven and further crisp it up, but I think this is in a good condition. I'm just going to leave it out and then we'll bake it with the actual cake body. Moving on to the cake body, give the food processor a quick rinse and we're back at it. In the bowl, measure out 500 grams of cream cheese, 150 grams of icing sugar. Here's me forgetting to use up the icing sugar like a dum-dum, only to realize halfway through. 30 grams of milk to lighten the cake up. Bowl on and give it a quick pulse until all is smooth. Give the sides a quick scrape to incorporate it all in. Next, 180 grams of peanut butter I absolutely love my homemade peanut butter. It's so easy to make and it tastes so much better. Pulse again to mix it all through. Last bit of ingredients, we add in 2 eggs, 1 gram of salt, and about 10 grams of imitation vanilla to give it more depth of flavor. Turn the food processor on until all is homogenized. All pretty straightforward here. Once done, pour our cake batter into the tray or cake tin. As always, scrape the bowl clean to be thankful for everyone involved in making these ingredients. Alright, so we've got our base and our cake body all in the tray here. We've got the oven preheated at 180 degrees Celsius on fan force. So I'm going to pop this in for 35 to 40 minutes, and we'll see how it goes. Time's up. We can see the cake still has a good jiggle to it. We'll now let the cake cool down until it's cool to touch. Alright, so we've got our cheesecake semi-chilled. It's still warmish, but I think it's a workable temperature that we can go on and make our chocolate layer on top. I don't have any chocolate at home, but what I have is some of the white chocolate smash cake casing here that I think I can really make good use of it. For the topping of ganache, measure out 1:2 butter to chocolate ratio. I got about 70 grams of white chocolate here. So I added in a couple of cocoa powder to make it chocolatey, followed by 35 grams of canola oil. This chocolate ganache is absolutely unconventional.
Different, unusual, it's not for Spanish.
But I just had to run with what I had on hand, and I was pleasantly surprised. To prevent chocolate from splitting, we are doing the double boiler method by putting our chocolate pot in a bigger pot filled with water and heat it up in a more gentle fashion. Stir until the chocolate is melted. Once done, over to the bench and pour our chocolate ganache onto our cake and spread it out. And you know it, we give it a good scrape to clean up. Okay, I'm a little bit nervous with how this is going to turn out because I've made so many changes from the base to the cake body to even the ganache on top, but I'm going to pop it in the fridge, let it chill probably overnight, and we'll see how it turns out, and I'll see you tomorrow. The cake is all set. I really know how it looks like because we cut it open and someone else in the household got to try, but I personally haven't tried it yet, so I'm going to do that, give you my honest feedback. Each layer of the cake set so well, and honestly, using a rectangular tray allows me to cut the cake into a more guilt-free size, so that is always a plus. The cost breakdown is right on the screen here. This entire cake costed me $5.50 to make. Alright, and there we have it. We've got our cheesecake done right here. Nothing else to say, and I'm going to dig in and let you know how it tastes like. It's a good amount of peanut butter that you can taste it, but it's not overpowering the entire thing. And you know what this reminds me of? Reminds me of like the Reese peanut butter cup, but the ratio of the chocolate and peanut butter is kind of flipped around. It's not super rich, it's not super sweet, and it's actually a pretty nice balance. The cheesecake itself, still nice and moist. And the crust on the bottom, I actually think it's a really good substitute to the normal biscuits because it takes away a lot of the sugar content. So this gives you the crunch, but none of the sweetness, and the addition of cocoa powder gives it a bit more bitterness, and overall I do think this is a really good balance and really nice cheesecake. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you soon in a different kitchen. Bye. Goodbye, my lovely kitchen.